Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump surging in the polls in two major battleground states. Trump making gains on Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker in Iowa. One poll showing Walker still on top with 19%. But that's only 2 points ahead of Trump, who has 17%. And it's a different story in New Hampshire, where Trump holds a solid lead ahead of Scott Walker and Jeb Bush, ahead of the whole field, carrying 21% of that state's Republican primary electorate. Joining me now, Deneen Borelli, Fox News contributor, and Jessica Tarlov, Democratic pollster and strategist and senior political strategist at Schoen Consulting. Ladies, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
So we have been talking about Donald Trump for a while now. You know, He's been great at getting media attention. He's been out there, but he has been talking about some of the big issues in this campaign, and he is leading in the polls. Does that have a major impact at this point in time in the race, Jessica?
Well, I think, yeah, obviously. I mean, the fact that we're talking about him, big impact, but also, I mean, I think there is a chance that he could win some of these early primaries. But like we were just saying before we started, you know, he's raising real issues for real Americans. And I actually think that it's time not to start taking him seriously as a contender. He's not going to be the president of the United States of America, but for other candidates to say, he says it inartfully, but he's raising these real issues and we should get on it in a constructive way, you know, especially with illegal immigration, which I think has been his bread and butter so far.
Deneen, what do you think? I mean, he's been bathed in the media spotlight, and Jessica says, but he won't be president. What are your thoughts?
Well,
He's leading the polls.
But that's up to the voters, whether or not that will play out. But listen, I think Donald Trump has turned D.C. insider politics on its head, turned it upside down. I like to say he's a disruptor. He is the Uber of what Uber is doing to the taxis today. And there are a lot of people who are not happy about it, and they don't like it. But yes, he is talking about issues. He's making Americans focus on really important issues that are facing our country, especially immigration and sanctuary cities.
Yeah, interesting point there when you say he's the disruptor, because a lot of Republicans have come out in the past about just things that he's said. They said, you know, this doesn't represent us or our party. What do you think about that? Do you think he is a disruptor for the GOP?
Well, absolutely. I mean, he doesn't fit the mold, like you're saying. I mean, Americans, over 85% of Americans have been saying consistently in polls for years that they want an outsider in politics. But we have other outsiders we could be looking to, like Ben Carson or Carly Fiorina. And, you know, they represent a similar outside field, but they're not talking in the same way because, as I said before, it's not a nice way to talk, but the straight talk and the end to this PC talk, I think, is really important to Americans. Like last week, what we saw with the All Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter controversy, and Martin O'Malley actually apologizing for saying all lives matter. I mean, PC culture has gone too far. I'm willing to say maybe it's even worse on the left than the right, but that's something that Donald Trump is speaking directly to and that we need to change.
Yeah, and fellow Republicans, the Republicans running against him, have been speaking out so much as if he's somehow damaging a brand. Do you think he's damaging a GOP brand?
Listen, I think a lot of our Republican Congress members have damaged the brand. Listen, Mitch McConnell was caught in a lie just last week on XM Bank by Senator Ted Cruz. And so really, Donald Trump, I think, is filling the void. He's filling that gap where our establishment, if you will, senators have not been able to do. They haven't even been able to stop President Obama with his radical agenda.
And one other thing that Trump has put out there, he sort of danced with, possibly, is running as an independent. What do you think that would mean in this race, Jessica?
Well, it's fantastic news for Hillary, and I don't think that he's going to do that. I mean, when you look at what the polls are now, even if he slips dramatically, he certainly could pull a few percentage points. And the polls last week, the Quinnipiac polls in the swing states, they showed that, you know, she was lagging behind her GOP rivals now, but just by a few points. So I don't think that there's any way he's actually going to go for that, but more attention, the better, right?
Yeah, I want to get Deneen in on that at the last here. As a third-party candidate.
Well, again, it's not politics as usual. Who knows what's going to happen? As time goes on, we will find out. But again, I just think there are a lot of people who just don't like the fact that Donald Trump is ahead in the polls, and based on, you know, his bombastic attitude and how he addresses issues, that is what they don't like, because it's not politics as usual.
But it's also, some of it is nasty. I mean, I just want to add that.
It is politics. It is still politics.
Yes,
so
but you don't say what he said about John McCain. You don't say what you said about Mexicans in a blanket like that.
And he did come out and clarify what he meant about
But it's still his initial.
And there's so many months to go. We are still so early in this process. Deneen Borelli, Jessica Tarlov, thank you so much for talking with us about Trump today.